If there is a recession, God forbid, but if there is one, how would it impact Singapore, and which groups would be most affected?
I think we just had a roundtable with small companies, DPM, and I mean, from their point of view, they were already badly hit because of the trade war, trade tensions before the COVID. So now their message would be, if whatever you're doing now, just the rental waivers, wage support, tax support, rebates, please do more. Okay. They would like to see and to like to hear some good news, if possible. Like you mentioned, the waves, or in terms of the hit, in terms of the COVID. Would the first wave, for example, recover faster? That includes China, to instill some sort of recovery that can kick in, Right. And from that perspective, there was mentioned by the government that essentially this downtime can be used for training and refurbishment and automation and so forth. Right. So they would like to see some, more of that kind of strategy as well. But at the same time, to help them to survive.
So you raised two very important points. One is, first, how we can all come together to not just survive, but to prepare for the upturn.
Correct.
And on that point, the government must do our part. Right? So whether it is the reduction of property taxes or the major job support scheme.
Right.
But I will urge all businesses to each do their part. Because, for instance, between the landlords and the tenants, it is important for landlords to take action to help to safeguard the business interests. Because if the shops remain viable in the long run, everybody benefits.
Correct.
So we have to take a long view and not take a short view on just saving ourselves, but we need to save others. And in that, we have to do it together. We're all on the same boat. And it does not make sense to say that, I have this and you have this. I think we need to come together. So whether it's landlord and tenants, whether it's banks and your clients, there will be small businesses in particular which are viable, and therefore we need to support them as fully as possible. And as you said, different markets have different dynamics. In China, it's a lockdown, but at the same time, in India and other places, your business is booming. Now, even in China, they are now beginning to look at how they can unlock Wuhan. They had a big lockdown of Wuhan, and now they are taking a very risk-based approach to look at how they can unlock Wuhan. So the first point is how we must come together, take a risk-based approach, and as the situation warrants, we either tighten or we loosen, so that we do not have a total standstill.
Right.
Your second point, which is important, is that not only should we work together, but we should look at what's ahead. And in particular, how do we use this downtime to prepare for the upturn? Training, for example, is one key area. And I think we should be looking at new ways of doing things. So for instance, I recently met an entrepreneur who was in the video conferencing business. And he said, I'm doing really well. I said, what happened? He said, well, everybody is avoiding meetings, and therefore I have lots of business. So his comment triggered a thought. And I also met a businessman who has operations in China. He was initially very upset that his workers were out of action and locked down in their dormitories for 2 weeks. And after a day, he decided that, well, how do I make the best use of this time? So he used that time to do remote learning. So the workers were in their dorms, and everyone was doing remote learning. So I think we should turn this adversity into opportunities, turn the weakness into a strength, and make the full use of this time, this downtime, to really realize this goal. So in terms of what we have in mind for the second package, first of all, let me say that the budget itself has very major measures for stabilization and support of the economy, for support of households, and as well as the transformation, the transform and grow. So I was at the Chinese, the Cao Bao event, where business leaders say, oh, you have a 4083 package, 4 billion for the economy, stabilizing the economy, and 8.3 billion for transform and grow. So I think that number will change a little. It will be higher in that.
Which part will be higher?
Well, I'm looking at the first one being much higher. But also the second, much higher in terms of the relative increase. but also some bits relating to the transform and grow, which, as I mentioned a few weeks back, that we should aim to emerge stronger. And there are several areas which I think that this outbreak now shows us the need of the global economy. If we can be first off the block to innovate, to make innovation pervasive in our society, in our economy, we can respond to this new situation very dynamically and come out with innovations that will meet the needs of Singapore, but also the world. So first, in terms of the support measures, our topmost concern, of course, is our workers. Because if our workers can keep their jobs, then the consumption can resume and life can take place as normally as possible. So that will be one key aspect of it. And two, our small and medium enterprises, in that how can we support our small and medium enterprises to make use of this downtime to really strengthen their capability and at the same time to tide over immediate short-term difficulties. And for that, we need to work together with the banks, with the key partners, with our trade associations and chambers, because this is not something which can be done just by one or two companies and just between the government and the company. This is something that has been done together with the banks, together with the companies, together with the trade associations and chambers. Now if we can do that well, then I think the entire industry and the entire economy can emerge stronger in the longer run. And the other aspect is after the outbreak, there are many more people who have been self-employed, and they are now having difficulties in managing this. So we're looking at how we can provide some support to our workers who have either chosen to be self-employed or have done a variety of jobs, mostly because it's much more flexible. So there's those who do it part-time in order to earn some extra money. There are also those who do it full-time because it suits the nature of their job or it suits their lifestyle better. But we have to rethink this whole model to look at how we can strengthen it better so that when you have a downturn like this, how can they be better protected? And in particular also, when you have an upturn, how can they be ready for the upturn? Because if they're operating individually, the need for training, the need for upgrading, the need to use technology better may not be obvious to them individually. But if we can bring them together in some ways, then I think everybody will have a better sense of their common needs, and we can then look at how we can have more innovative solutions to meet these needs.